In every area of life, when we see order and structure, we assume that there is an order giver or a designer. I have a few questions for you. Who is the principal designer for the light bulb? Okay. Now, who is the principal designer for the iPhone? Great. Now, who is the principal designer for the Model T automobile? Some of you may know that. Another question. Who is the principal designer or the first designer of the boat? Let's try a different one. Who is the principal designer of the wheel? Might not know that one either. All right, how about this? The last one is, who is the principal designer? What's the name of the person who designed Stonehenge? Well, we don't know who designed the first boat, and we don't know who designed the first wheel. But our assumption is not that since we don't know the name of the designer of either of those, our assumption is not that they happened by random chance. We assume that there was a first designer, but we just don't know who it was. And Stonehenge. Stones are a natural phenomena. Dirt is a natural phenomena. And stones in dirt is a natural phenomena. So why do we assume that Stonehenge, which is a bunch of stones in the dirt, is not a natural phenomena, but was actually designed? If our default assumption is that when we see organized systems, there must be an organizer, then why do some people make one exception to that form of reasoning when it comes to our creation or the creation of the universe? Why do some people make an exception and say that our default assumption to the origin of the universe is not that we have a designer, but that it's random chance? And then they say people who believe in a creator must prove his existence. The only reason we understand the concept of random chance is because we have order. The only reason we understand dark is because we have light. The only reason we understand grief is because we have love. And we understand random for the very fact that we do live in a universe of order and structure. The default mode of operation is order. And if there is order and structure in our universe, then the default assumption should be that we have an order creator. There are plenty of people who oppose the idea of a creator. Some people in the social sciences oppose the idea of a creator because they believe that all moral structures, social structures, are a product of societies. That people within the societies agree to whatever their moral structures are, and then that's where we get our order or our structures from society. And if someone believes differently than them, then they are allowed those beliefs. We'll just assume that they aren't as organized as us. Some scientists in the hard science believe that there is not a creator. They oppose the idea of a creator because the designer cannot be seen. The hard science base its foundation on testable, repeatable facts. But since we cannot test and repeat God or creation, then belief in God is unscientific. However, many scientists who state this position ignore the fact that their own scientific beliefs are based on previous events that they believed happened but cannot prove. They make incredibly tiny experiments that they can repeat and then extrapolate from those incredibly tiny experiments that something much, much larger must have happened, although they can't test it or repeat it or prove it. And they ignore the fact that while we cannot repeat creation, we have an innumerable amount of tests that we can repeat and can prove that whenever we have order, that means there is an order creator. I've read many articles over the years that present science in this form. They may say something like, science proves, or scientists have proven. What that actually means is some scientific tests, allow some scientists to draw certain conclusions. Some professional articles are written in such a way that a casual reader would believe that all scientists state that all science proves there is no creator. This assumption is far from accurate. Here's a quote from an article in the Pew Research Forum. A survey of scientists who are members of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, conducted by the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press in May and June of 2009, found that 41% of hard scientists do not believe in God. They were comparing belief in God among the general population to hard scientists. I believe the general population is somewhere around 90% do believe in God. And they were saying hard scientists have a disbelief at 41%. They're saying 41% of hard scientists don't believe in God. Okay. But what that means is 59% of hard scientists do actually believe in God. One of our nation's leading scientists is actually a devout Christian. Dr. Francis Collins was one of the premier leaders in the Human Genome Project. And in 2009, President Obama appointed him as the director of the National Institutes of Health. And he did such a good job that President Trump reaffirmed him as the leader of that position, where he still leads today. He's a medical doctor and a PhD in physical chemistry from Yale. Now, Dr. Collins does not believe that God created every single life form that exists. But he does believe that God created the universe. In an interview with PBS, he was asked about his belief in miracles, which creation is one of the premier miracles of God. But PBS asked him about his belief in miracles, and here's what he said. If God is who God claims to be, and who I believe he is, then he is not explainable in natural terms. He is outside of the natural world, outside of space and time. So if God chose to intervene from time to time in the natural world by allowing the occurrence of miraculous events, I don't see why that's an illogical possibility. Once one accepts that idea that there could be something outside the natural, then miracles also become possible. The core question is, who or what started the universe? Was it a miracle of a creator, Or was it a miracle of random chance? For the atheists, there are a few answers to the beginning of the universe. The most popular answer is that 13.8 billion years ago, matter, or the material universe, what makes up the universe, was not, but then suddenly was, and exploded. And from that explosion, we now have the universe that we see. So there was nothing, and then something appeared from that nothing. There's another theory that says the universe is actually eternal. It continues to expand to a point, and then it'll contract and pull itself in. It just is repeating this cycle and over. In this belief, the atom is God. Matter has the power of creation. Another explanation is that God, the eternal supreme being who stands outside of space and time, created the universe. He existed and caused the universe to exist. And each one of these beliefs, whether it's the random chance or the eternal supreme being, each one of these has a question that cannot be answered. For the atheist, the question is, how does dirt have the power to create itself from nothing? For the believer in God, the question is, where did God come from? Now, there are long philosophical musings about this, but we always end up at the same answer to both questions. We don't know. We're left to choose between dirt and God. Our choice comes down, in both cases, to believing in something that we cannot explain. Either atoms appeared from nothing, or God created the universe. The controversy over this creator and the creation is not a new controversy. The Apostle Paul wrote about this in his letter to the Romans. In chapter 1, verses 18 through 20, Paul wrote this: "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." Now, Paul claims that all of creation gives evidence to a creator. People who want to live without God suppress their knowledge of God. People who want to live in sin suppress their knowledge of an eternal judge. But evidence of God can be seen clearly in all of creation by people who are willing to acknowledge a creator. An article from the California Institute of Technology, it's a pretty powerful institute, says this: "The universe contains organized structures on all different scales, from small systems like the Earth and our solar system, to galaxies that contain trillions of stars, and finally, extremely large structures that contain billions of galaxies." There's evidence of structure all over creation. In the Old Testament, King David wrote about this evidence like this: "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the end of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun. There are other ways to consider this question of God also, like the fact that humanity has the inclination to look for God, or the fact that creatures, living beings, have the desire to be loved, or the fact that we have intelligence. We don't have time to talk about these today, but I do want you to know that there are a number of other ways to come to the conclusion that we must have a creator. There are some questions that will go unanswered, and whichever option we choose to believe, we have to live with the fact that there are some questions we may never know the answer to. So some scientists believe that 13.8 billion years ago, nothing existed, and then that nothing became something that exploded. 13.8 billion years ago. So what was there 14 billion years ago? Before the universe began, however it began, that's another debate for another day. But however it began, was there nothing or was there God? We must believe in something greater than ourselves. Either we believe that atoms have the power of creation, or we believe that God, almost said spontaneous creation, that's what it is. There's nothing and then it creates himself. Or we believe that God, who stands outside of time and space, has created us. So either atoms mysteriously appeared, or God mysteriously existed and created us. We have to believe in something. And I choose to believe that the eternal, the supreme being, the creator of the universe, caused us to have existence. The question I'd like for you to consider is, where do you place your faith?